Welcome to Bull TV, where we are bullish on Collierville. I'm your host, David Pickler. Bull TV is a monthly show that empowers, educates, and entertains while highlighting the citizens of Collierville who inspire and deliver solutions for a stronger community. Bull TV is presented by Pickler Companies and is proudly produced by the students of Collierville High School. We invite you to watch our show at www.bulltv.show, thebullnetwork.com, and CHS TV 19. New episodes air on the second Sunday of every month at 3 p.m. Central Time. On today's show, we sit down with Tasha Holmes, Executive Director of Leadership Collierville. In the show, we'll discuss this community-based, nonprofit organization and how it fosters growth for leadership in our community. Tasha and I will cover the importance of joining this incredible program and how the various experiences introduce class participants to a side of Collierville they've never seen before. With programming like Altruism Day, Education Day, and Government Day, Leadership Collierville is an invaluable asset to our current and future leaders. Stay tuned for this look at the importance of nurturing leadership in our community and how Leadership Collierville plays a pivotal role in this process. Today I'm joined by Tasha Holmes. Tasha serves as Executive Director of Leadership Collierville. Tasha brings to the role several years of professional experience as a former middle school teacher, recruiter, and HR manager with a large urban school district. We'll talk about that. Tasha is passionate about literacy development and serves on the board of several nonprofits in town. Tasha is a Memphis native, but for the past 17 years, she has called Collierville home with her husband and rising 9th grade daughter. Tasha, thank you for joining us for Bull TV.
Thanks for having me.
One of the things that we do with Bull TV is we start with really getting to know our guest a little bit. And so, in 3 words, who is Tasha Holmes?
In 3 words, I would say born to serve.
Ooh, that's great. Succinct, you got the 3 words in, that's fantastic. You know, we've kind of teased this already. You and I obviously crossed paths years ago in the previous roles that we had with the classic Shelby County School District. Yes. When I served as the board chairman and you were working in the human relations area there. Tell me a little bit about what your experience was like at Shelby County Schools and how did it prepare you for the role that you have now with Leadership Collierville?
Yes, we did get a chance to cross paths. You were my unofficial boss in many instances when you're board chair. But I'd say that experience really taught me you know, how to really work under pressure and how to be, you know, I have a term that I use with our team and I say, be kayaking nimble. Like, you know, there are times when things will show up and you just got to make a way and make it work, especially when you're working and serving kids and families. Yeah.
Now, you clearly have very deep education roots.
Yeah.
I know you've talked about your mom was a teacher here in Collierville from, what, 1973 to 1978 to 83. She retired from Germantown schools, and then your dad was a teacher in Memphis for over 30 years. What leadership values did your parents teach you that really prepared you for the leadership role that you have now? You
know, David, I'll start with, you know, when you're a child of 2 educators, you don't want to go into education. So I'll be honest with you, you know, because you know how hard they have to work and, you know, how much they don't make, unfortunately. And so, but, you know, my parents really taught me to work really hard. And they taught me to create and develop really great relationships with people, and to show up as your best, you know. And so that's what I try to do. It's what I try to teach my 14-year-old. And so those are just some things that I kind of keep with me.
Are there other leadership programs or initiatives that have really helped you as you've kind of forged your path to where you are now?
You know, for sure. You know, some of the questions I was thinking about, I was like, gosh, I'm starting to date myself, you know, out of all the things that I've done in my life. But prior to committing to Collierville leadership programs, I worked with New Memphis Institute. I don't know if you're familiar with that organization. Nexus Leadership, which is connected to Second Presbyterian Church. And, you know, David, I spend all of my life serving and giving in my church, and most of my friends know that that's a passion of mine. And so I would say those organizations, as well as a couple other very small groups that, you know, serve women and children. So I keep my fingers in lots of things as it relates to giving and serving kids and literacy, for sure.
And I really appreciate the fact that you really use interchangeably the terms giving and serving.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know when we talk about the concept of servant leadership and really what it's all about, because really to be a leader, you also have to be willing to serve.
Absolutely.
And really it's very much interchangeable in that regard.
For sure, for sure.
Wow. Well, we're here to talk about Leadership Collierville.
Yes.
And I'm, as a former graduate of Leadership Memphis and Leadership Germantown, I'm certainly familiar with the program, but take me and our viewers through a normal year within the program for Leadership Collierville, and what would the class experiences actually, or participants actually experience during that given year?
So I can talk about what it should look like. You know, COVID had us to take a little bit of a turn this year, and we'll talk a little bit about that, I hope. But in a year's time, first of all, I am a graduate of Leadership Collierville, so shout out to my class. But the year starts out with what we call a retreat, where we get to know each other, and we have some challenges out in the wilderness. And I will tell you, that's the weekend where you really get to learn a lot about yourself and a lot about your classmates. And you walk away with like all of these new friends and all of these new relationships that really you take with you for the rest of your life. And I'll be very honest with you, as a participant, I had no idea that I would walk away with lifelong friends and people I probably had seen in the local Kroger, and now I see them and we know each other, you know. So it starts out with a retreat, and then we are taken through an 8-month program where we get to know intimately our town, our leaders, how our town works, the players and the participants, and then we, at the end of the program, we learn how to plug in. So the goal is for many of us not to continue to go to work, to our church and home, but to discover that in between these 3 places, there is a town that really needs us. I will tell you, as a participant, I hadn't ever been on Main Street prior to my class.
Really?
I know, it's crazy. I would zoom the back way to the post office and zoom the back way back to my house, then zoom the opposite way to Kroger. And I had no idea what a jewel this town was. I had no idea. And I had been here at that time 15 years.
Well, there's no question. I mean, the entire Main Street Collierville area and the town square is just something that is so unique. It really feels like a throwback.
It does. But the people, you know, the people that I was able to connect with, and to be able to call the fire chief up and say hello and say, "Hey, Paul," you know, it's really exactly what I'm hoping over the years, that we call ourselves a town, that we really become even a closer knit community. Because what happens is when we start, you know, passing bills and laws and voting for people, we really get to know who we're voting for and who we want to support us. And when Collierville High calls us to support, and Jeff says, "Hey, I need you to do X," it's a relationship. And so I feel very, very fortunate to lead this program and to help other adults have the same experience that I had.
Well, you're obviously very passionate about that.
I am.
I hear from everyone who's gone through the program that one of their favorite days is Government Day.
It is.
So tell me a little bit about what you guys do for Government Day.
So without giving all of the excitement away, Government Day is the one day that we all get super excited about, because we get to sit in the seat of our alderman and our mayor. And we, with our town administrator, we talk about some of the things that are kind of coming up on the agenda for us to discuss. And what it does is it demystifies the work that they do. I think it's so interesting that sometimes when we see government officials, it just looks, so scary, the work that they do, but really and truly it humanizes them and the passion that they put into this work. And so we have like a mock town day and we have a mock mayor, and they really get involved in making some decisions on behalf, in a mock way on behalf of the town. So it is so fun. It's one of my favorite days aside from a couple others, but it's super fun. So people who go through, that's one of their favorites for sure.
Well, you're getting me excited. and so I've got to ask the $1,000,000 question.
Okay.
So how would someone get involved with going through and becoming a member of Leadership Collierville, going through and being a participant?
Great question. So all you have to do is, once we open our application, you simply go on and apply. We then, read all of the applications, and what we're looking for are couple of people. There's some people who apply who really understand. They understand what leadership programs are all about and how important networking is and getting connected to your town. And there's some people who are just like, I'm just lost in this town by myself and I want to get to know people. And we love both. And what happens is we become our family. And so we want people to apply in August. We'll open the application process, and we have, a few slots just depending on, our availability. But we're excited to open up the class again. So. Well,
we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the challenges you've had over the past year.
For sure.
But I could not endorse more strongly the program. Again, I graduated from Leadership Germantown in their inaugural class back in 1996, and in Leadership Memphis in 2001. But the group that I came together with Leadership Germantown in 1996, that group became such a core group of friends, of volunteers, mentors. From that class came the current mayor of Germantown.
Wow.
And so many other leaders. And I would tell you, when I actually ran for the Shelby County Board of Education, that my campaign team really came from that Leadership Germantown class.
Right. That's
so
right.
For people who are looking to serve, who are looking to lead, it is such an amazing opportunity.
For sure.
The networking is incredible. Well, but I understand that with your organization, it's not just about adults.
Right.
That you also have an opportunity for youth leadership. Tell me a little bit about that program.
As a former teacher, I have to push back my teacher hat and allow them to be semi-adults. But we recruited this year. This has been our largest year. We recruited 32 young people for the youth class. And to do that in a pandemic, we're super proud. But it's very similar to what we do for adults. We have a retreat, but the youth get a chance to mentor and partner up with other professionals in town. So they get to spend a day in a life with professionals. They also have Town Day, Youth Day. They get to meet the county mayor and our fire chief and police. But then they spend some time this year is really to getting to know themselves, spending time finding out what their strengths and their weaknesses are as leaders, and using that to catapult them as they think about, like, what career do I want to focus in on, and like, what are my strengths? So we do a strengths finder where they walk away knowing, I really should be considering this field because I'm really strong in this area. So that's the difference. We're leaning more towards character development and helping them with careers. One thing I added this year was mock interviews. If you work in HR, you can't help it.
Wow.
So I'm getting them ready for college interviews and for career interviews, because for many of them, they've never had to have an interview. Some of them just walk up to maybe Chick-fil-A and just say they want to work. But my goal is to, when I think about the future of this program, is to really have a healthy bench of professionals and leaders in this town. And it really just takes all of us doing our part. And so with 30 kids, I feel so fortunate to be working with each of them. And they also have projects that they are involved in. So both groups are involved in projects, and so we are redoing a couple homes here in town. We have some elderly folks who unfortunately don't have the means to be able to kind of meet their homes up to code, and so they'll be doing some painting of shutters and cleaning flower beds and the sort. Just 2 weeks ago, we finished Collierville Literacy Center, and we'll talk about that, giving it its facelift. That was the most rewarding thing we've done all year. I get emotional thinking about it. And we're also gonna, as I said, do mock interviews. So I'm keeping them busy, and that's the goal. I want them to stay busy. And I'll say that's one of the things that my parents did. You know, people ask, you know, like, how did you get so involved? I think that was one of the things my parents did. They said, you know, keep something on your agenda to do. Keeps you out of trouble, you know, and keeps you thinking on the right path. And so that's my goal for the young people. And it's so far so good.
Well, that's incredible. It sounds like not only are you giving them the leadership opportunities, the service opportunity, but you're really giving them training in the area of workforce development.
Absolutely.
You're talking about those soft skills that employers keep talking about. What a valuable asset.
I hope so.
Well, I've got to ask this question too. It's a follow-up. How would a student, how would a young person get involved with this program?
Well, it's a little different. There is an application process, and we open the application online. But one of the teachers here at the high school, Mr. Carey, is on our board, and he is one of the greatest supporters and helps me to recruit and identify kids in the school who want this opportunity. So if you are a student or you know Mr. Carey, go ahead and let him know that you have interest, so that we can begin the process. And we try not to turn any kid around who really has an interest in doing and communicating, even if there's a wait list, which we do have, but we try to do our best to engage every kid who's interested.
What an amazing program. That is
trying.
great.
Thank you so much.
Well, for someone who's only been in this position for, you said, a year?
In April it was a year.
What some amazing contributions you've already brought. Tell me, what is the greatest lesson that you have learned in this role with Leadership Collierville so far?
The greatest lesson, that we are really better together. That, this work, while it's a one-person seat, it truly takes my amazing board, parents even, community partners, and I really do go through the town and I hunt for a yes, There are some people who, will say, Tasha, that is too big of a project. You cannot paint that entire building. And I was like, but if I call the folks and they may be able to give us paint and we may be able to do it. And so I really do believe that it takes us all. And that's been what I've learned. And I'll take with me into year two, that I won't try to do it by myself. Because people really do want to plug in. And so as best I can, I'll take all the volunteers and, just so you know, I'll be reaching out to you too, because I think it really does take all of us to give and to share and to help other people grow and see themselves in ways they hadn't before.
Well, it seems like you're really unafraid to dream big.
I'm not afraid to dream big.
That is great. Well, you did mention in Sharon just a moment ago, you talked about your great board. And what role does the Board of Trustees play in the Leadership Collierville program?
Well, the board, just with any nonprofit, it's our governing body, and they are responsible for our fiscal health. They are responsible for managing, personnel, of course. And they are also, there to tell me, hey, there are some great things out there that we're doing and we can do more, and so they really do push me and encourage me to dream big. They also help me to, if I have to make a scale down, they'll do that too, but they really are there to guide and to direct and to make sure that we stay fiscally healthy, responsible in all things that we do. I mean, as you know, with any nonprofit, there are finances involved, and so we make sure that we are good stewards of what we are given, and they help me to write grants, and they help me to share those grants throughout our town and our community. And so I feel incredibly grateful. We've got a very healthy board, and I want to say, unlike many other boards, every board member is a Leadership Collierville alum.
Good.
And so they understand our program, and they themselves have invested their time and treasures to our board. And so that's the extent of their work, but I'm sure they'll say they do lots of other things. But we do meet monthly, and there's some times we get together and have fun. And so we'll have some time this summer, hopefully, as outside opens up. I think that's the coin term, and getting together and having some fun and just celebrating some wins that we've had.
That's great. Well, we've all talked a little bit about what's been going on. And, like many individuals, many businesses around the world, your organization was forced to pivot during the pandemic. What impact did the pandemic have on your organization, and what lessons did y'all learn as part of this process?
David, I will tell you, that was the hardest. I started this role April of 2020, and I think, we had started the process of shutting down just weeks prior. But we really were unsure, initially around like what a year might look like, because as many leadership programs do, it's in person, right? It's, you got to spend time with each other, and you got to meet, you got to gather, and connect. And so what we did is I connected to Tackle, and we have a governing board for all leadership groups. So it's Knoxville, Dyersburg, Jackson to Memphis, Tennessee. And we had a conference, and we got a chance to sort of share some of our ideas. But I will tell you, the folks at Bridges, all about Bridges in Memphis, helped us to reimagine leadership. And it forced me to say, like, we totally do this, right? We could totally look at it a little differently. And our board was like, we've never done this before. We've never had a retreat virtually, right? And I will tell you, David, this year has been our best in participation. It's been our best in giving. It's been our best in involvement ever. And so I think the lesson that I take from that is, like, don't allow anything to stop you from doing what you know that you can do, even if it looks differently, even if it has a little bit of a shift. And it's hard. You've got people who have been in leadership for years, and they wanted to see they want to see things kind of look very similarly. So I committed to keeping the main tenets of our program very the same. But I wanted to be sure that if people wanted this, that we could deliver. So it was tough.
Wow.
But we did it. We did it. I think I look back and maybe pinch myself. I'm like, how did we do it? Because all of us sat back. We weren't really sure. But people showed up, and you just go. You just do it. You just forget about being scared.
Wow. Well, you just mentioned Tackle.
Yep.
The Tennessee Association of Community Leadership.
Yes.
And apparently they have just recently recognized Leadership Collierville as a resilient organization.
Yeah.
So, you just talked a little bit about that, but what things did you do or consider to do when deciding to move forward? Because you talked about how you're having to shut down in April. You talked about these things. So, take me a little more through that decision-making process.
I'll tell you the recognition. I couldn't believe it when she emailed us. I really couldn't believe it. But what I did, and I'll be honest with you, I took a month and I said, I need to think this through. What can it look like? What will people be willing to engage in? Because there's still an investment, right? And so I took some time. I talked to my board. I talked to other leaders who are members of this organization. They shared some of their best practices, and I was like, okay, that'll work in Collierville. That might not work in Collierville. So this will sound funny because I'm still a little old school in my ways, but I still have those very large poster size Post-its, they're just, and I literally just drew out every day, what could it look like in a virtual space? How much would we need? How many people could we accommodate? And I just did it. I called my board. Does this seem weird? Or does this, got a little bit of feedback from people. They helped me, reimagine that's what I've been thinking about. And I called another board member, and I'll be honest, I hope you don't mind me calling her name, but I called Missy. She happened to be running at the same time. And she talked me through a lot of just reassuring the belief in this town, because it's scary when you're new, sort of, and you're doing something a little differently. And so she assured me that this was something we could do. And my board members stepped up. They bought books, and we called it the Year of Impact.
Okay.
And so we are reading the book Impact together as a group. And what we decided was, instead of spending all of our time doing lots of visits that we go out and make an impact, make a stamp, show up. And so, like I said, we're reading the book together. The folks at Kyle Grasso, a huge supporter of what we do, said, everybody can get a book and we'll read it together. And it has been just an amazing experience, just to look at things a little different from a leadership lens. And so they are reading the leadership tenets about power and about structure and about challenges and leadership. So those are some of the things that I did just to make sure that it was still a really solid program, and that people were able to walk away having said, like, someone else needs to do this because it's totally worth it, because that's ultimately what we want, the health of the organization to continue to thrive.
Well, it certainly sounds like you really define resiliency, but also the ability to adapt.
Yeah.
And to adapt, to overcome, to innovate. That's fantastic stuff. You've talked a little bit about some of the stakeholders in the community. What real role does the community play in the success of Leadership Collierville?
It's the breadth of the organization. We could not do it without the community. We are dependent on the voices of alumni. We depend on our mayor and his team. We depend on people who've gone through the program who say, we believe that what we do is worth it, and the relationships that you'll get. I'll tell you, I have a story from one of the folks who went through the program who has his own business, and he said, having gone through the program, he said, my business has never been better, and I didn't realize how pigeonholed I had put myself, and I didn't get a chance to really get out there and meet other people. And so that made me so happy to know that he recognized that, truly we're better together. We can do so much together if we're okay to get out of our little pods, our friend pods. But the community is huge. It's the air that we breathe. There are folks who have given us great gifts because they've seen our work. And our paint project was a huge sponsor from one of our community partners. The folks at Chick-fil-A make sure the kids stay fed. We partner with our banks just to make sure we're investing, they're investing in us, and so it's huge. And I think when you think about organizations, if you don't see community plugged in, you start to wonder if it's healthy, right? And so I think one of the things the former ED, who recruited me actually, and I have to shout her out, I love Emily so much, really taught me a lot just about making sure that it is a healthy thread, and that we are connected as a family, because we really do see ourselves as a family, and we bring others in. Well,
I feel this is almost redundant because you're so passionate about everything you do with this organization.
Yeah.
But I know that supporting literacy, the Collierville Literacy Council, is something that's really important for you and for Leadership Collierville.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about the Collierville Literacy Council.
The Literacy Council is an old program here in town, but they have a new director, Penny Aronson, who is also in this year's class. Okay. And they had a little bit of a challenge. Many people in town, knew about their challenge. But what I learned more than about their challenge was that they were still doing the work of literacy in our town. And I don't know if people know, but there are about 15% of Carvillians, I don't know if that's a name or not, who are ESL, so they're English speaking language learners. And then we have quite a few non-readers right here in town. And so the work that they do with and for families to help them with reading and being able to process their own bills and being able to help their children who are young people in our schools is just incredible, David. I mean, if you've never visited, you have to go and see the work they do and the recruiting that they do of families. They have lots of part-time folks who come in and tutor, lots of volunteers who come in and tutor, and they needed a facelift just recently, and we worked with the town to help with their roofing, and we painted that entire space so that when kids came in this summer, they had a very clean space to learn this summer. And I mean, the alumni came. We had now it's escaping me, the current class members, and they brought their kids, and we all painted, you know, and it was great. It was a great feeling to walk away knowing the impact that would be happening in those walls. Nothing like it. And I do have a plug for them. Penny asked me to make sure that I mentioned that they are getting ready for an immersion program on the 23rd of May. Go to their website if you're interested in plugging in or donating. They need books. They, of course, can accept any donations because the work that they do is pretty incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I know that there's many other organizations and programs that y'all support. If you wouldn't mind, I mean, tell me a few of the other organizations and initiatives that Leadership Collierville supports.
Absolutely. So I mentioned Collierville, the Literacy Council as our main, because what happens is each year we adopt, right?
Okay.
We adopt a group that we support, but Collierville Schools, we work very closely with Dr. Lilly and his team. One of the things that we're working on is I don't know if you know this or people know that like kids have having to have so much screen time. We're not sure what their impact might be with their eyes because they're on computers longer than they normally would have. And so we're working to get just some blue light glasses for kids whose families may not be able or don't really realize that this is something that they need. And so that's something that we've done this year. So excited to see Dr. Lilly and his team really embrace us and working with Mario and the team. We also are working with the Y. One of the things that they needed was ways to help distribute some of the foods. I don't know if they've talked about, but they have served thousands of families this year because there are some food droughts and some food deficits right here in town. And so they've been feeding families and continue to feed. So we partnered with the Y with resources and time and volunteering hours just to give them manpower. You know, it's a lot. it's a lot of work
Goodness
that they've been
gracious.
doing. Again, the paint project, I have to thank Sherwin-Williams here in town. You know, we needed a lot of paint to get the council ready. And they were so helpful to us in getting the resources that we needed. And, I'll ask for whatever we need, because,
You
the
don't
work's
appear to be
gotta
very
be done.
shy about that.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. I'm pretty shy sometimes.
Oh,
I know
well.
it's crazy.
Well, what would you say, Tasha, would be the most rewarding thing about being the Executive Director for Leadership Collierville?
What's the most rewarding? I think that what's rewarding for me is to step back and to see people who have experienced sometimes one of our days, and I do something. I always have a survey. I want to know, how did you experience the class? Because sometimes you think you're great, and people will say, well, there's some things you can work on, right? And so one of the things that I started with the group, I was like, I'm open to feedback. I'm open to feedback. Tell me what you feel. Tell me how we can improve. And when people can walk away and say, you opened my eyes to something I hadn't really thought about, and that really did something to me. And I'll tell you, our Diversity Day was one that was really one I was kind of afraid. I'm not going to say afraid, but I was a little hesitant to lift, giving times and what's happening in our culture, just being careful about what to say. And I led it with an alumni, Tim Netherton. I'm not sure if y'all know Tim. And we led it together. And he's a good friend. And the kids really walked away exactly the way I wanted them to. And what we did that day, David, was we shared with them that, you know, diversity is more than race, right? And how to explore and understand all the different kinds of things that make us different and make us same. How do we become more tolerant? You know, and we talked about our differences in family makeup. We talked about faith. We talked about finances. It was a really, really solid day. And many of them walked away in this building. Many of them are students in this building, saying that they would see their peers and other people differently, and not so much focusing on what they can see, because there are some disabilities that we never will see, right? And so helping them to understand that collectively as a people and as a community, that there's more than meets the eye, and you can continue to serve without always focusing on what makes us different. What are the things that we're all engaged in that make us, that we have the same interests? So that's what I want to walk away with. I think I want people to be committed to our town, and I want them to see the possibility. You know, once I'm long gone and not in town, you know, I'll be an old lady. I think about my first grade teacher, who's right there on Peterson Lake, Betty Only. She's my first grade teacher.
I've known Betty for years.
Yeah, she was my first grade teacher. She's my first grade teacher. See, you tell her she did a good job.
Absolutely.
And when I think about people like her, you know, I want to have a long legacy of people who come back and say, you know, Tasha, you helped me see something I hadn't seen or had discovered. So that's my hope.
Wow, that's an amazing legacy to leave, to do that. Now, Tasha, Leadership Collierville is really built around developing leaders and building leadership. And in fact, your tagline is developing better leaders.
Yes.
You've had the opportunity in a number of roles to observe lots of examples, both good and not so good, of leadership. What do you think are the most important attributes that someone should have to be a good leader?
It's a really good question. I probably say you're the hardest question because it really, really depends on who you are oftentimes. But I would say leadership tenets, and I think about people I've worked with, are really sharp people, and I would say they're good listeners. They understand their own weaknesses because we're not good at everything, right? You know, there's just some people who are better at it, you know, and they recognize it, and they're okay with saying, you know, I'm not so good at that. Do you mind? You know, and so that's, you know, that's the beauty of that. And so I would say a listener, they sort of know their strengths and weaknesses. They know how to work beyond their fears.
Very important. Wow.
They know how to work beyond their fears because people are watching. People are watching, and so I think those are my three.
Those are three fantastic ones. Now, we always take this opportunity because here we are filming inside of this amazing Collierville High School.
Yes.
And time that you spend time here. Your daughter, I guess, is going to school here.
She will be here.
Will be soon. And what message would you have for the students at Collierville High School when you think about the concept of leadership?
Wow. I remember high school, which is great. I was just on the campus of my high school this weekend, so this is a timely question. I attended Overton High School in Memphis, and I was in the Kappa program.
Oh, wow.
And I remember being in your seat as a 15 and as a 16 and as a 17-year-old. And I think what I would say to you is to pick your friends wisely. Pick your surroundings wisely. And it doesn't mean they have to be just like you. You know, it's okay to have people who look different than you do and who have different backgrounds than you, because that helps you to grow and to develop. But pick your friends wisely, and don't be afraid to meet new people with different ideas from different backgrounds, because it helps you to grow. It helps you to grow even beyond high school, I think your parents probably say, make good grades, but I will say, make good grades, but do your best. Do your best. If your best, okay, this will not be popular, David, okay? But if your best is a C, like if you worked really, really hard and your best was a C, we can roll with the C, right? But just be sure that you're always putting your best foot forward. Always put your best foot forward, and take every opportunity you can to lead projects and to volunteer to serve in your community. Get to know old people like me who've had some life experiences, and ask us lots of questions. Like, don't be afraid to ask the question. Just a random question is not a bad question. Just like ask a lot of questions. That's how you learn. You won't know if you don't ask. So when we wrap up, I'm gonna hope that some of the kids in the room will ask me some random question before I leave. That makes me happy to engage, so.
Tasha, that is wisdom right there. you have just laid some wisdom on that. So that's fantastic.
So. Thank
now, you've
you.
already talked a little bit about your first grade teacher and some things that you would like to leave behind. Mm-hmm. And I'm a big believer in legacy. And despite what you say, you're still a young lady. And so when you look back years from now upon your career, what is the legacy that you would like to leave for Tasha?
Wow. Well, when I think about my legacy, it's, goodness, I haven't really thought about it, but what I hope, my dad used to say something like, you're living, I hope this doesn't sound morbid, so it's a thing, but you're living your eulogy every day. And I always think about, like, what will people say, once I'm out of a seat, or once I've moved on, or, gotten to be an old lady and I start to look back. But I definitely hope that people will see that I am truly committed to being a better person first. Every day I want to grow. Every day I'm trying to learn something new. This year has been gardening, so I'm trying to develop a green thumb. Last year was sewing. I tried it, not so much. Every year I try to learn something new, but I hope people see that I'm really committed to serving, that it's something that's driven inside of me. Sometimes I wish I couldn't serve so much and so hard. My family's like, you're always doing something. But I hope people know that my service is for real, and that I want to see this world better than I found it. And I owe it. You wake up every day and take in all of this oxygen, and so the least that I can do is give back some of my talent and my time and my treasure. So that's what I hope my legacy is. I hope to, in a big world, I'd love to be able to have scholarships that I can give to young people who want to be educators. That's really a huge goal of mine. I want to see more kids go into education, and so that's my pie in the sky. I had to just put it out there. Love to be able to do that. So.
Wow. Well, Tasha, this has been amazing. I've always believed that the greatest leaders really lead both with passion, but more importantly with heart. And you've today, I think, really shared a portion of your heart, of your love, your passion, and what you're bringing to this role. And I thank you for what you're doing for Leadership Collierville, what you're doing for this community, what you're doing for the children, the students who are involved in the programs. I really encourage everyone to get involved in these programs. So thank you for joining us here on Bull TV.
Thank you so much.
We talk about being bullish on Collierville. Well, I'm bullish on Tasha. So,
thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Leadership can best be described as the process of social influence maximizing the efforts of others towards the achievement of a goal. Leadership comes not from positions of authority or power, but from a person's ability to influence the behavior and actions of others. A great leader operates from a foundation forged by moral integrity and strength of character. The legendary business management expert Peter Drucker once described management as doing things right, while leadership is doing the right thing. Former President Ronald Reagan stated that the greatest leader is not necessarily the one who does the great things. He is the one that gets the people to do the greatest things. Organizations such as Leadership Collierville provide an invaluable service to our community by helping transform engaged local volunteers into a core of leaders for our future. Programs such as Leadership Collierville are essential ingredients to convert vision into reality for our community. Each of us is encouraged to seek the leader within us, whether it be as a church volunteer, a local service organization, a youth or elderly programs, or community service. Our futures will be enriched by the passionate engagement of our citizens. Together, we can lead our community to fulfill its awesome potential. Find your passion, pursue your dreams. Your service and your leadership will help all of us build a stronger Collierville. And that is my 2 cents. We invite you to join us next month as we sit down with Kevin Vaughn. Kevin is the state representative for the 95th District of the Tennessee House of Representatives, and also a small business owner here in Collierville. In the show, we will discuss local politics and the role of the Tennessee legislature. We'll get an inside look at Kevin's platforms and committee work. We'll also talk about the specific issues that have an impact on Collierville, on workforce development, and on education, and how the legislature promotes businesses moving to Collierville. Until next time, I'm your host, David Pickler. Thank you for watching Bull TV, where together we deliver solutions for a stronger community.